Okay, so by the where of client work, we've already gone over the what, so like what specific things you could be doing, and the where of client work basically is where you would be doing this kind of work, or where you could market yourself for this kind of work, or where basically just where you need to be to get this kind of work. So for business to business online, the where it means putting yourself online in some kind of attractive way, right? The goal is to attract clients that you want to work with. So anything that you post online, if you want to work with clients, anything that you post online should be considered your portfolio. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you only need to post perfectly polished things. You can obviously still post behind the scenes things, and if that kind of more real, raw representation online is your thing, then absolutely go for it, because that's part of your quote unquote brand and how you want to market yourself as an artist. And I think that there's still a big market for however you want to do that. But just know, whatever you put online, if you want to attract clients, that's what they're going to see, and that's how they're going to view you. So, one way to attract clients online is to have a website that's like a dedicated online portfolio where you would post all of any relevant samples of work, where you could post examples of you could post testimonials, which is falls under the category of social proof, meaning you have examples of people being happy with your work. Another example of social proof is if you have a following on Instagram or YouTube or Pinterest, or any kind of, if you have a following or have built a community, which is a way that I like to think about it more than building followers. If you've built any kind of community, no matter how small or how big, on social media, then that is an example of social proof. It's also very important that you leave contact information wherever you put any of your work online, so that if anybody finds it, then they know how to contact you to bring you on as a client, because how else would they be able to if they don't know how to contact you? So that means like in your Instagram bio, on your website, you always want to have a place where people know how to contact you. Okay, so, and I'm not going to go a whole lot into social media here. I'm going to do other classes on social media, but social media is important if you want to maintain an online presence as an artist who is available for hire. So, another place online to get client work is like if you explore marketplaces, like Creative Market is a place where artists can drop, they can upload patterns or fonts or anything like that, so that graphic designers can purchase them on Creative Market. Other places like that are, I think there's a site called Fontable. Etsy does things like that too. You can sometimes small business makers look for patterns on Etsy. So any kind of marketplace like that is an online place where you should be if you're focusing on B2B. Okay, now online for B2C is very similar. If you want to attract clients, the most important thing is to upload the kind of work that you want to do, is to upload the kind of work that you want people to commission you to make. So always keep that in mind as you are uploading things. Now, that's not to say that you can never like be creative and post things that aren't really in your wheelhouse, but just in general, from a business standpoint, the way that you're going to attract people to commission you for work is to post the kind of work that you want to be commissioned for. So it's kind of as simple as that. And then for both B2B and B2C, local events are pretty important. So let's start with B2B. Typically, especially if you are in a big city, but mostly in any city, there are like networking events and craft fairs and business launches and just big community gatherings where there are makers and there are businesses who are looking for makers. If you are looking to connect locally and get clients locally, it's so important that you put yourself in places where your dream client can easily find you. If you want to look for local networking groups, Facebook or LinkedIn are great online places to look. Because often there are groups specifically for entrepreneurs or just businesses in general in your area. I would also register for craft fairs, but just know that most of the time for craft fairs you need to pay for a booth, so or provide tables and other things like that. So some overhead funding might be needed to participate in craft fairs, and from a lot of people I've talked to who do craft fairs like on the reg, they don't often make tons and tons of money, but they do make a lot of connections and get a lot of clients based on the networking connections they've made at those craft fairs. So, and then we've already talked about major events, but one thing I will say about that is if you know a business is launching or you know like a new area in your town is being revitalized and they're doing a big festival or something, there's no need for you to sit around and wait for someone to ask you to be part of it. In fact, you might be waiting for a long time to do that. You should go out and ask for what you want, and the worst that they can do is say no. So that line I'm probably going to be saying a lot in this class. The worst they can do is say no. And if you want to be somewhere and if you want to work with somebody, then you go after it and you ask for what you want. And you'll get better at it the more time you do it. So for weddings, it's basically the same thing. It's important to get involved in the local wedding community. There's often a very thriving, especially if you live in a big city again, there's usually like a tight-knit community of wedding people, wedding crafty people, and you want to get in on that. So the way to get in is to go to bridal fairs and craft fairs. If there are bridal conferences, look for things like that. And then other ways to get clients who might commission you to do things is at craft fairs or conferences or art galleries or art shows. See if there are any local art showings in your town and see if you can be part of it. So that is the where of client work in a nutshell. And now let's go on to the how. Okay, so we've talked about what classifies as client work. We've talked about where you might need to be in order to get clients. And now I'm going to briefly talk about how you can get clients. So probably the number one place that you would get clients and to do this kind of artwork is through referrals, especially if you're doing B2B or like big name clients, like or with working with brides. I think people are way more likely to work with someone when someone else they know and trust recommends you. So obviously if you've never worked with a client before, hard to get a referral. But that's why it's just really important to maintain healthy relationships with your current and past clients, because if you really liked working with them, then there's a very good chance that they could recommend other people they know who are looking for similar stuff. Now, I do want to say that doesn't mean you should let your clients walk all over you, because they can and they will, but it's important for you to remember that your client is not your boss. You are in a partnership together. You own a business, and if you're working with a business, your client owns a business. And together you're trying to come up with a collaboration that is beneficial for both parties. So that doesn't mean you have to do anything that your client asks you to do. Now, that also doesn't mean that my saying that your client is not your boss is not leave for you to, be super unprofessional. But I just think it's important because at least when I first started working with clients, I felt like I needed to do everything I possibly could to do everything that my clients would ask of me. And it's so important. That's why it's so important to start every business relationship with a contract that details the scope of the work that you're doing. So you know exactly what you're doing, your client knows exactly what you're doing, and then you can both work from there. Okay, so referrals. You want people to refer you, and that is basically how most client work comes about. Um, Another way to get clients is for random people to come to you, right? That's the dream. I feel like lots of makers on Instagram talk about how they get lots of clients through Instagram and they just have been lucky to have people approach them. And if you want that life to be your life, the way is to be very intentional about how you present yourself online and make it easy for clients to approach you. And more important than that, make it easy for clients to envision working with you. So content marketing is a phrase I'm going to mention here, and I'm probably going to do a class specifically on content marketing on Skillshare next month, so be on the lookout for that. But basically, content marketing is marketing yourself through your content. So instead of waiting to create content for a business, you're just going to go ahead and create content that's useful and generous for people, and then they know what you can do, and so they want to hire you because of that. So instead of waiting to get hired to create what you want to be creating, you just go ahead and make it and give it away for free on your terms. And it showcases what you can do, and it gives people a taste so that they will come back for more. Content marketing goes hand in hand pretty much with passion projects and creating your dream portfolio instead of waiting around for some really cool project to come. If you want cool projects, then you need to show people that you can follow through on cool projects. So passion projects are a great way to go about that, to think of something really fun and cool and just go ahead and make it. And in the process of doing that, you not only learn how to handle projects and handle um, creating major things and like having more confidence in yourself that you can do it, but it again also shows potential clients that you can do it and that you can handle the responsibility of a project like that for them. So content marketing and passion projects are probably the number one way to have clients come to you. And then there are always the traditional ways, which I'm sure you already know, networking, which we talked about. And just for the record, I think networking is a super gross word. I don't like it. But the concept really behind it is building a community and growing your community, right? Networking really is just making friends. I live in Washington, D.C., okay? So networking is a big thing out here. And I think that a lot of people view networking as like collecting people in order to get ahead in your career. But that's the wrong way to look at it if you want to have long lasting professional relationships. Really, what you're doing is making friends and seeking out like minded people who you like talking with and you like collaborating with. And the more that you build a community and connect with people, the larger and more vibrant that community becomes. So that's why networking is important. But just yeah, so look past the gross word and think about really what it means for you and what it means for the community. So one way to, yeah, anyway, that's networking. The last thing is cold pitching, and I think that pitching is something that is so scary for everyone. I remember when I first thought about pitching myself to people, and it's just terrifying because you're like, well, who am I even to reach out to this person? Who am I even to like claim that I am good enough to work with them? And I just want to say that the very worst thing that can happen, like in reality, the worst thing that can happen if you reach out to a business saying that you want to work with them is that they say no. And that would suck. And it probably will happen a lot if cold pitching is the way that you get most of your, is the way that you at least at first get most of your clients, which I think you should at least try going this route. You're going to get a lot of no's or a lot of no responses, and that's okay. But they might just say yes. and good things can happen when they say yes. I was listening to my favorite podcast, Creative Pep Talk by Andy J. Miller, and he referenced, I can't remember the artist, but he referenced an artist who, when she first went freelance, had a goal of getting 100 rejection letters. Like, that was her goal. Her goal wasn't to send out 100 pitches, it was to get 100 rejection letters. And I think that that small shift in mindset of like understanding how valuable it is to do the work of reaching out to people, even if all of them say yes, is going to help you a lot in terms of having the resilience to make it as a business owner and to have the confidence to keep going. Because honestly, with sending out the pitches, quantity matters a lot, because the more you send, the more likely you are to find someone who you really want to work with. So the way to find people you want to work with, honestly, is to think about your niche, think about the kind of stuff you love creating, and then like Google businesses who might be interested in that kind of thing. So like, I really enjoy landscape painting, so I could pitch to like outdoor recreation places, or I could pitch to like landscape nonprofits, or I could pitch to if there are businesses that tailor, like that make products that fall in the for people who fall in the category of people who love like camping and wilderness and adventure and like things like that. So you want to get creative about who you think might want to work with you, and then just shoot them an email. Make it easy for them to hire you. And the way that you make it easy for them to hire you is by having a solid portfolio that has evergreen products. So that's like products that anybody could use, and do their research to make sure that your aesthetic really fits in with what you do. You basically want to do the work of fitting yourself into their business so that they don't have to. And in my experience, the best way to really close a sale, to really close a client from an email, is to, instead of trying to show them everything there is to know about yourself in one email, is to just send a few lines saying, hey, I see you do this. I do this. I think that I can really help you, or I think that a collaboration would be really cool between the two of us, and then get them to a discovery call so that you can more easily woo them over. I'm going to go more in depth into pitching and other things in a different class, but basically my main advice in terms of cold pitching to clients is just remember the worst that can happen is they say no. And if you really value what you do and you really think that you could see yourself working with that specific business, then make it easy for them to see that too, because in reality, they probably would benefit from working with you. So you just want to make it so they don't have to think about it. Okay, so that is the how of client work. And now we've wrapped up our section on client work. So let's think about whether or not client work is right for you. So this is just a quick list that I've put together of general characteristics of client work. And remember that our final project is eventually you kind of honing down on which categories you want to pursue and what you want to do. So that's at the end of this the course. But as project prep, maybe think about what kind of client work you might be interested in pursuing. But first, let's go through this list. I believe that client work is right for you if you enjoy approaching and working with people, because clients don't always fall in your lap, and because working with clients means you're working with people. So if you don't like talking to people, client work might not be right for you. Client work is also right for you if you thrive on deadline-driven projects. Because you are creating work for other people, it's very important that you maintain their deadlines and that you can get them their stuff when they need it. They're paying you to create, and they're paying you probably based on deadlines that they have. And so like the surest fire way to lose clients and to lose referrals is to get them projects after their deadline. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Client work is also right for you if you love creating based on someone else's preference. So if you love hearing someone else's vision and knowing that they reached out to you because they really love your aesthetic and your style, and they think that your style is the perfect way to put their vision and bring it to life, and you love hearing that and then bringing their vision to life and working together with them to come up with what they want. Now that's obviously contrasting to if you prefer to really just have complete ownership of what you do, and you don't really like it when other people critique your work, and you're really possessive, I guess, of the work that you do, then maybe client work isn't quite right for you. But that's okay. It's good to know that about yourself. So it's also important to be unafraid to put yourself out there. Because like I said and have mentioned lots of times in this section, client work is a lot of getting to know people, and the most successful businesses who have a thriving business based on client work are people who go out and get the clients that they want. So that is an important characteristic. And then I would say having a more professional atmosphere, because when you're working with clients, it's not like you have to wear a suit every day, honestly, but you do need to be professional and you need to present yourself as a professional business person. Otherwise, clients might not trust you as much. And by professional, like I said, I don't necessarily mean like, I think the traditional, you're wearing a suit and you're using words like synergy and, whatever, all that dumb things. But professional means you get your work on time, that you are clear in your communication, and you have a contract, and you do things the right way, basically. You treat your client with respect. You expect them to treat you with respect. You you present yourself in a very orderly and easy to work with manner. So that's kind of, I guess, what I would deem as professional. Okay, so I think that about wraps it up for client work. Think about all the things we talked about, all of the different ways that you can potentially work with clients. And if that sounds interesting to you, then I would just jot a few of them down in preparation for our final project. And next, let's move on to teaching.
Hi, thank you so much for joining me in this video of my Ways to Make Money as a Freelance Artist series. I had such a fun time making this for you, and I can't wait to make you even more content. So if you like what you see, or if you liked any of my, I have some watercolor tutorials as well, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because that's the best way to support YouTubers that you want to continue making content for you. And if you want to view any of the other videos in this Ways to Make Money series, make sure to check the description below this video. It has a full course schedule that details when the rest of the classes will be released, and if they've already been released, then it will have links to those classes as well. So thank you again for joining me, and can't wait to see you next time.